Because of my grandfather's and also because of my father's influence, I was raised to believe that you should be proud to be an American, and that you can do a lot more than just express that pride verbally. My response to those stories I heard and the words I read and the images I saw was to want to go out into the world and do something active for my country. I also had a highly refined sense of right and wrong instilled in me. On one day in particular, January 6th, 1992 to be exact, that sense came sharply into play. It was a Friday afternoon and I was a freshman in high school. I was a new member of the swim team, and as part of an initiation ritual, I was required to wear my Speedo swimsuit over my jeans. The goal was to see if newbies could handle the inevitable snickering and wisecracks, but things escalated way beyond that. I was walking to class, just after having lunch with my brother Jake, when I ran into a gauntlet of students, all of whom happened to be black. Obviously, my hazing attire made me stand out from the crowd and could have led to why I was selected for what happened next. I can't say for sure if what did happen was a racially motivated attack, but I do know that racial tensions across the country had been high ever since a black man named Rodney King had been severely beaten by white members of the Los Angeles police force nearly a year before. My racially mixed high school, Waterloo West, was not exempt from the tension. We could all feel it rise up at times. In fact, a cultural enrichment club meeting had recently been canceled because some white students had allegedly been promising to show up and cause problems. I guess, simply put, I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I was beaten up pretty badly, though, and I hated the feeling of powerlessness I experienced in those moments when I was punched, kicked, and slammed into the walls. Absolutely no action was taken against the guys who did it. So I took some action. I told myself that I would never again experience that kind of helplessness. I joined a local dojo, a school for practicing martial arts, led by an excellent sensei, or teacher. My sensei's mentor had served in Vietnam as a force reconnaissance marine, and I was naturally very interested in his combat experiences. I committed myself to learning how to defend myself in a more disciplined and learned way than just some street fighting moves. While I couldn't have connected all these dots back then, that desire to protect myself against future attacks from bullies dovetailed with what I would come to see as the role of the United States, to protect and defend the country and other people against aggressors. Add all of those influences up and throw in a best friend named Matt who shared a similar interest and work ethic, and I was fully committed to joining the Navy and the SEALs as my ultimate aspiration. The Navy SEALs are the elite of the elite. They conduct top-secret operations behind enemy lines. SEAL stands for Sea, Air, and Land, and a Navy SEAL team will use one or any combination of the three approaches to reach their mission location. At this point, however, I wasn't exactly the model physical specimen that a SEAL team member needs to be. As I mentioned earlier, I was the typical late bloomer physically. However, I was drawn to fitness and the mental and spiritual discipline required by the martial arts. If I did possess one trait out of the box, so to speak, that made me a prime candidate to be a SEAL team member, it was this. I was ultra-competitive. I hated to lose, and as much as I felt helpless during that attack by virtue of being so outnumbered, I also had the idea in my mind that I should have been able to overcome those odds. In my fantasy, after I had been jumped, I would have been able to fight my way out of it, breaking jaws and knocking out teeth along the way. One trait that successful SEAL team candidates have in common is that they can't stand to lose, and they won't quit. Ever. Since I knew before I joined the Navy that I wanted to be a SEAL, I let the recruiters know that was the case. Not that my desire mattered much, but when it came time for me to take the preliminary screening test, I was well ahead of the game. Because I was so highly motivated, I'd been working out twice a day, 6 days a week for a long time before reporting to the Great Lakes Naval Training Center. In fact, I thought that basic training was a detriment rather than a benefit.